The importance of Limón is in his work. He knew that he was part of a common humanity and was expressing that humanity. I think that the importance of Limón is that he represents dance at its most emotionally and theatrically accessible. If you put a good Limón work in front of any audience, it will gather the story and it will feel the flow, it will get the impact.
Jose has left a body of work for us that is among the most important dance works of the 20th century.
In education programs, just in the Ailey Company, bringing his works into our repertory has a great deal to do with the kind of respect that he garnered as a great artist and part of the fabric of dance in this country.
The continuation of the legacy, there's always a problem with that, you know. Should the work last beyond the person who created it? What happens to it? Is it being done the same way? Of course it's not being done the same way. We don't dance the same way. We don't look the same. Our bodies aren't the same. Is the spirit of it there? Absolutely. The dedication shown by Carla Maxwell and her staff in the constant renewing of this work is just miraculous.
We have to be extraordinarily careful in maintaining the fabric of the dance as we have it. That's why I think that the Limón Dance Company has an enormous responsibility to hold as many of the Limón works in working order as possible.
There's something about the technique, the hand of these prime movers that we must not lose. People who understood how they placed the torso over the hips, how they encouraged the breathing, how they themselves inhabited a gesture.
The best of Limón will stand up to the test of time. I think it's very important that it be retained in repertory. I think it's very important that dancers feel the Limón Humphrey spirit in their bodies.
When the Limón technique is done well and done in some of his strongest works, I believe it really transcends its time.
What shaped Limón was the overwhelming impact of the Spanish Civil War. We tend to forget how important it was to a whole generation, particularly of British and American intellectuals and British and American artists. It had an enormous impact. I remember the people around me being fiercely concerned. This feeling of anti-fascism. Even I knew that there was something very important going on in a place called Spain. For so many people, the idealism of the Spanish Civil War was never recaptured.
I watched Missa Brevis, which eventually the Ailey Company performed, and I was so moved by the intent of the piece, the fervor of kind of faith steadfast faith. It was very evident in this work that there was a reverence that was palpable.
There's hardly a more perfect dance work than the Maurice Pavane in every way, in its literary association, its poetic content. But all of this linked very closely to the Purcell music, both in time, meter, spirit and emotion, and all given a perfect dance expression.
Maurice Pavane is one of the greatest modern dances I think ever made because of its musicality and how succinct the characterizations are. I think now about the Maurice Pavane, why would he choose that story about a misunderstood black man in a position of power who is betrayed and destroys everything around him? How did he really feel about his people, the Mexican people, being exploited wholesale, and to this day still having to force their way into the discourse? Through all of that, he brought that I think he loved about his culture. It's taken me some years to look back and see what I do owe to him. It was very important that he was a man of color who was grappling with the European hierarchy of beauty and importance. Going inside of that tradition of these hierarchies and finding something that was meaningful. I think that in his work or in his performance, I can feel all of those oppositions being pulled together.
We need to celebrate our artists in America. They are the noble achievers of what we are and what we do. They reflect our culture, they challenge our culture, and Jose was just such a person. He needs to be known. The great ambassador he was, as he went again and again into the Eastern European countries long before the curtain fell, to show that we were, in fact, human, wonderful people living in America. Not just strong and mighty, but frail, wonderful, touching. And we need that now more than ever.
He himself was so secure in A, his masculinity, and B, his theatricality, that he himself, in that presence, did have a moral sense of rightness to it.
It was easy to tell from his work where he stood. He was about the best in us, about what it really means to be a human being, about the great struggles of our time. You can name about 3 or 4 names in the middle of the last century that were the pivotal figures in defining what dance was. And certainly at the top of that list is Balanchine and Tudor, and in modern dance, Graham and LIMÓN. There was nothing else for him but dance and transmitting his message of dance.
One of the things that worries me about dance is we do not have sufficient regard for our past. I think that the Humphrey Weidman LIMÓN axis, whatever we want to call it, that branch of the tree, was deeply compassionate. It was a strong feeling for people, strong feeling for oppression, a feeling for the outsider. I imagine that the goodness of people and the betterment of people was of paramount importance to him.
This is a man that believes that progress can be made, and I believe that the progress that he counted on was something about the human heart evolving toward a state of higher consciousness and acceptance of what makes us human, of the transformative, the magical in his gesture, something that has seen a great deal and yet still believes.
He was an outsider who always was of the view that man was fundamentally good, but fundamentally needed help, and that the role of the artist was to some extent represent that goodness and assist in that help.